the rope bit into my wrists as I knelt on the cold concrete floor, blindfold soaked with sweat and tears. I could hear them both, my daughters, whimpering somewhere to my left and right. The ocean roared just beyond the warehouse walls, a rhythm that mocked the pounding of my heart. Listen carefully, Mrs. Marshall. The voice was distorted, electronically altered, but the amusement underneath was unmistakable. You have 1 minute. Pick one. I didn't need a translator. I'd been a mother for 8 years. I'd nursed fevers, cleaned scraped knees, held hair back during stomach bugs, and sat through countless sleepless nights watching chests rise and fall. I knew their little bodies, their little sounds, their little pains. But this choice was impossible. Please, I gasped, my throat raw from screaming. Please, I have money. Whatever you want. 50 seconds. My mind raced, fragmented, desperate. The rational part of me, the part that had negotiated billion-dollar deals and survived a corporate coup, knew what the numbers said at IT did. That part of me whispered, the weak one to the one with a compromised immune system, the one who burns through medical bills like gasoline. You can't afford to lose her. You've already invested too much. But I hated myself for thinking it. I hated the math of motherhood, the cold accounting of who gets to live and who dies. 40 seconds. My older daughter, Lily, always so quiet, so undemanding, had barely made a sound since this nightmare started. Even now, I could hear her muffled sobs, trying to contain herself, trying not to make things harder for me. My younger daughter, Maddie, fragile, sickly, needing me constantly, was wailing. Her asthma acted up in the salt air, and every breath sounded like a struggle. The weak one, the one who won't survive the shock, the one who will need medical care within minutes, the one who... 30 seconds. I opened my mouth. I choose. And then I saw them. Floating in the air between me and where I knew my daughters were huddled, letters pale gold, like old photographs developing in developer fluid. They appeared word by word, as if someone was typing them directly into the atmosphere. The wicked stepmother is finally about to lose her only biological daughter. Remember when she and the heroine gave birth at the same hospital? The heroine swapped the children, took the boy, left the girl. I blinked. My eyes burned. I genuinely thought that the stress had broken something in my brain. I was hallucinating. People hallucinated in extreme crisis. It happened. More words appeared. She deserves it. She stole Richard from Vivian when they were about to get married. She ruined everything. Vivian had to leave the country. The letters shimmered like heat haze. My blindfold must have slipped slightly, or maybe this was God, or the devil, or my own dying brain, manufacturing a reason to survive. But the suffering arc is coming. Her older daughter might live or die, but the younger one isn't hers. And her son, her real son, he's about to die in a mountain village, beaten, starved, left in a barn with the animals. The ground tilted under me, and I could feel my pulse in my skull, in my teeth, in the raw skin under the rope. And my son, the baby I'd held for exactly 20 minutes before they took him away, told me he'd been stillborn, showed me a tiny body wrapped in a hospital blanket. I'd mourned him for 8 years. He's in the mountains. He fell. The people who bought him aren't going to help. They're going to let him die in the cow shed, alone. The words burned. They physically burned, like staring at the sun too long. I wanted to scream. I wanted to claw my own eyes out. I wanted to do anything except what I was about to do. 20 seconds. The voice cut through my paralysis. The wicked stepmother gets what she deserves. Nothing. No children. No husband. No life. It's justice. Justice. I looked at the space where I thought Maddie was. The fragile one. The one I'd spent every spare dollar on, every sleepless night over, every panicked hospital dash for. And I thought, that child is not mine. But she'd been mine for 8 years. I'd held her hand when she couldn't breathe. I'd prayed over her bed when she had fevers that burned like hellfire. I'd let Lily, my real daughter, my firstborn, the one who'd come out screaming and fighting, I'd let her become invisible because Maddie needed so much more. She is not mine. 10 seconds. I made the decision. 9. My throat closed. 8. I couldn't speak. 7. Could I really abandon one child to save another? Could I choose? Choose like a commercial decision, like a cost-benefit analysis? Had I become that cold? 6. I remembered the first time I held Lily. The nurse placed her on my chest, and she opened one eye, just one, like a pirate, and looked at me like, you're my ride now. Don't screw this up. 5. I remembered the first time I held Maddie. She was so tiny, so delicate. The doctors had said, there may be developmental issues, long-term care, significant costs. 4. Richard had held my hand that day. Richard, who now had Vivian on speed dial. Richard, who'd built his whole life on my father's money and my mother's connections, and then used both to keep his mistress in a penthouse 3 blocks from our family home. 3. I looked at Lily's shadow, the quiet one, the one who never complained, the one who'd stopped hugging me because I always put her down to tend to her sister's newest crisis. 2. You were never meant to survive this marriage anyway, I told myself. But you can survive with Lily. You can survive with Lily, and then you can find your son. 1. I opened my mouth. I choose. The men on either side of me yanked. I heard the hydraulic whine of a lift, the creak of chains, and then 2 splashes. 2 entirely separate splashes. The blindfold was torn from my eyes. No, I screamed. But it was already too late. The men had tossed both girls into the churning black water. The ocean was rough tonight, wind-whipped whitecaps and a current that ripped toward the rocks half a mile down the coast. That's what you get, one of the men said, and I could see him now, just a silhouette, tall and broad, already walking to a waiting van. You couldn't choose, so we chose for you. I scrambled to my feet, ignoring the pain in my knees, ignoring the burn of rope fibers embedded in my wrists. The warehouse floor was gritty with sand and shell fragments. The water looked like black glass, shattering and reforming with every wave. A car screamed into the parking lot. Richard. Richard, with his expensive shoes and his panic attacks around open water, his beautiful face twisted with fear. I barely saw him. I was already running to the edge of the dock. Which one? He shouted. Eleanor, which one do I save? The water was cold, so cold it stole my breath before I even hit it. I hadn't taken off my heels. My coat was still on. My phone was still in my pocket. But I knew. I'd always known. Lily, the quiet one, the one who'd been waiting 8 years for me to truly see her. I swam toward the splash that was farther, deeper. The waves crashed over me, salt in my eyes, in my nose, in my mouth. I couldn't hear anything but the water. And then I saw her. A small silhouette, sinking. Her little arms were stretched out like she was trying to fly. I dove deeper. The cold was 1,000 knives. My lungs burned. My wedding ring caught on something, a rope, a net, and yanked, and I felt the metal slice into my finger. But I got her. I wrapped an arm around her waist and kicked for the surface with everything I had, every stubborn ounce of fight that had kept me alive through a marriage I should have left 10 years ago, through a grief I'd never processed, through the slow erosion of my own self. We broke the water together. I gasped. She gasped. We were both gasping, coughing, and somewhere on shore I heard a commotion. Richard and Vivian, both shouting, both scrambling. I swam for the dock. My legs were failing. My arms were failing. But I got us there, and strong hands reached down, Richard's hands, and pulled us both up. I collapsed on the wooden planks, rolling Lily onto her side, tilting her head back. And then I did it. Mouth to mouth. Chest compressions. The rhythm I'd learned in a parenting class 7 years ago, when I'd held the plastic baby and thought, I will never need this. Vivian screamed something. Richard was shouting. I ignored them. And then Lily coughed. Water came out of her mouth. First a trickle, then a flood. And then she was choking, crying alive. Oh God, I sobbed. Oh God, baby, you're okay, you're okay. I pulled her into my arms, soaking, shivering, and I held her like I should have held her every single day for the past 8 years. Richard was staring down at us. His face had gone white. His lips were moving, but I couldn't hear anything over the roar of my own blood. Vivian pushed past him, flinging herself at the edge of the dock. Maddie, she screamed. Where's Maddie? Richard blinked. His gaze shifted from my wet, sobbing daughter, my Lily, to the black water, churning and deadly. You picked Lily? His voice was strange, accusatory, like I'd ruined some kind of test. Eleanor, I told you to pick Maddie. I told you. I pressed Lily's face into my chest, so she wouldn't hear what her father was about to say. She's the one who can't take the shock, he continued. You knew that. You knew that. How could you be so selfish? Vivian collapsed on the dock, sobbing. Maddie, my baby. Oh God, my baby. Richard turned to her, not to me, not to Lily, but to Vivian, the woman he'd been sleeping with for, I didn't even know how long. A year? 2 years? Since before Maddie was born? He took her hand. Vivian, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I stared. My husband of 23 years. The man who'd proposed on a rooftop, who'd told me I was his whole world, who'd held my hand through 2 pregnancies and a stillbirth and more grief than I could name. He was comforting his mistress, while his other daughter lay in the ocean, drowning. Or maybe she wasn't drowning. Maybe she was. I couldn't think about it. I couldn't. Lily was crying into my chest. Mama, Mama, you saved me, Mama. Her little arms were wrapped around my neck with the desperation of someone who'd been falling for a very long time and just found something solid to grab onto. Sure, I've got you, I whispered. I've got you, sweetheart. I've got you. But I was watching Vivian. Watching her fake sobs. Watching Richard, who was terrified of water, who couldn't swim, who had a phobia so bad he couldn't even stand near a pool. I watched him offer to go into the ocean himself. Vivian, I'll go. I'll go. For you. For Maddie. He stepped toward the water's edge. He was shaking. He looked like he was about to vomit. And Vivian, his precious, delicate Vivian, pushed him. Gee-ho, she shrieked. Go save her. For me. He went. He didn't run. He didn't dive with a warrior's cry. He waited in like a man going to his own execution, one shuddering step after another, until the cold water hit his chest and he froze. I can't, Vivian, I can't. Get in, or I'll never forgive you. So he went under, and the current took him. The rescue boat was already halfway across the bay, its spotlight sweeping the dark surface. They'd seen the commotion. They'd responded. But now they had another swimmer to pull out, another body to find. I watched Richard's head disappear beneath the waves, and I felt nothing. Lily was still coughing, still shaking, still trying to process what had happened, but she was alive. The most important person in the room, the one I'd forgotten, the one I'd neglected, the one who'd been standing in the shadow of her sickly sister for her entire life. She was alive. Vivian looked at me. Her eyes were red, but not from crying, from rage. You did this, she hissed. You chose wrong. You always choose wrong. You don't deserve that family. You never did. I stood up. Lily was in my arms. She weighed almost nothing. She'd always been the smaller one, the quieter one, the one who never demanded a second helping or a new dress, or any of the things children are supposed to demand. I looked at Vivian, and for the first time in 23 years, I saw her clearly. The woman who'd slept with my husband, the woman who'd helped him hide his betrayal, the woman who'd stood by while his children suffered, while my children suffered, the woman who'd swapped my son for her daughter. My son, who was dying in a mountain village right now, bleeding out in a cowshed, alone and terrified and wondering why no one had ever come for him. I wanted to kill her. I could feel my hand shaking with it, the desire to do violence so pure and clean that nothing else existed. But Lily was still in my arms, and I had to get her away from here. You stay away from my daughter, I said. Vivian laughed. She actually laughed. Your daughter? Are you sure about that? And then I saw the words again. floating behind her head like a subtitle. The switch happens tomorrow. Vivian will meet with Richard's lawyers. She'll claim Maddie as hers. The paternity test will prove it. Richard is Maddie's biological father. The words faded. I looked at Vivian. She was still laughing, still confident, still sure that she'd already won. But she'd just shown me her whole game. Vivian. She stopped laughing. Something wrong. I shifted Lily to one hip and stepped closer. She backed up. Good. The switch, I said quietly. Tomorrow. Vivian's eyes widened. Just a flicker. Barely a movement. Barely a breath. But I saw it. I saw her fear. Those messages. I continued. You're going to claim Maddie as yours. The paternity test will prove Richard's the father. You'll destroy my marriage and take the only child I have left. A grin. You can't prove any of that. Maybe not yet. I wanted to tell her the truth. I wanted to scream it. I know everything. I know about my son. I know about the mountains. I know how you'll suffer for what you've done. But that would be too easy. That would give away my advantage. I just held her gaze until the rescue boat arrived, and then I turned and walked to the ambulance with Lily in my arms. Richard was pulled from the water. He was alive. Barely. They were doing CPR on the dock. I didn't watch. In the ambulance, with Lily's head on my lap, I finally had time to think. The images were still in my head. The words, floating in gold. They'd show me a version of the future, a version where I lost everything. But they'd also show me where he was. My son. Mountains. Cowshed. Falling. Bleeding. Someone had taken my boy, swapped him for a sickly baby, and sold him to people who would treat him like livestock. Someone had stolen 8 years of my life. I was going to find him. I was going to bring him home. And then I was going to burn the whole thing down. The ambulance siren howled. Lily slept fitfully, twitching, crying out in her dreams. I pressed a kiss to her forehead. Don't worry, sweetheart, I whispered. Mama's here. Mama's never leaving you again. Hashtag chapter 2, the first thread. The hospital room smelled like antiseptic and cheap flowers. Lily had fallen asleep an hour ago, her small hand still clutching mine, even in dreams. The heart monitor beeped a steady rhythm, proof that she was alive, that she was here, that I hadn't lost everything in that black water. But I was losing something else. Every minute I sat here, my son was bleeding out in a cow shed somewhere in the mountains. Every minute, his life slipped further away. I pulled my hand free gently, and Lily stirred, but didn't wake. I kissed her forehead and whispered to the night nurse, watch her. I'll be back before she wakes. The nurse nodded. I had already paid for private security outside the door. Richard couldn't get in. Vivian couldn't get near. My mother had arranged it within an hour of my call. I stepped into the hallway and called my father. He answered on the first ring. Eleanor, thank God. Your mother told me what happened. Are you all right? Is Lily? Lily's fine. Dad, I need you to do something for me. Something that can't wait. Anything. I leaned against the cold wall, trying to keep my voice steady. I need the hospital records from when I gave birth to my son. The one they told me was stillborn. And I need them now. Silence. Then, Eleanor, that was 8 years ago. What? Dad, listen to me. That baby didn't die. Someone took him. They swapped him with Vivian's daughter, Richard's daughter. Maddie is not mine, and my son is alive, and he's endangered, I saw. I stopped. How could I explain the floating words? How could I tell my rational, practical father that I'd hallucinated a future timeline? I can't explain how I know, I said. I just know. Please, trust me. He was quiet for a long moment. Then, I've always trusted you, Eleanor. I'll call the hospital administrator now. What else? Also, I need the best private investigator money can buy. Someone who can find a child sold into a mountain village. And I need them yesterday. Done. He paused. Your mother is already on the warpath. She's calling in every favor she has. Richard's company is going to feel this by morning. Good. I ended the call and stared at my reflection in the window. Hollow eyes. Wet hair drying in clumps. A bruise forming along my jaw where one of the kidnappers had backhanded me. I didn't recognize myself. That woman in the reflection, she'd spent 23 years believing in a fairy tale. She'd married a man who told her she was his saving grace, then quietly built a parallel life with another woman. She'd poured her heart into a child who wasn't hers, while her real child starved for attention. She'd mourned a son who was still breathing. I hated that woman. I was going to become someone else. The private investigator's name was Marcus Webb. He met me in a diner at 4 a.m, 2 blocks from the hospital. He was a wiry man in his 50s with a face like cracked leather and eyes that missed nothing. Your father gave me the basics, he said, sliding a folder across the sticky table. Hospital records are sealed. The administrator is cooperating, but someone wiped the digital trail 8 years ago. Printed records were shredded. The only copy left is a handwritten log from a nurse who retired to Florida. I grabbed the folder. Inside were photocopies of what looked like a personal diary. This nurse, Charlotte Bell, she kept records of every birth she attended. Off the books. A little insurance policy against lawsuits, she told the administrator when they fired her 6 years ago. I scanned the pages. Charlotte's handwriting was cramped but legible. And there, under my name, she'd written, Eleanor Marshall, delivered 1 male infant, 7 pounds 2 ounces, 2:47 a.m. Infant appeared healthy. Subsequent observation noted infant missing from nursery at 6:15 a.m. Returned by head nurse Margaret Voss at 7:02 a.m. Returned infant presented with female genitalia and a brace on right leg. Maternal signature on release forms not obtained. I read it again, and again. Someone removed my son, I said slowly. They brought back a different baby, a sick baby, and they called it mine. Marcus nodded. Margaret Voss died 3 years ago. Quel accident. No witnesses. No investigation. Convenient. Very. I flipped the page. Charlotte had also recorded another birth that night, a woman named Vivian Hart. The timing was almost identical. Vivian had delivered a female infant, also healthy. But the release form showed that baby was signed out to a family friend within hours, not to Vivian herself. The pieces clicked together like a lock. Vivian gave birth to Maddie, I said. Richard was the father. They swapped the baby so Vivian could keep access to Richard and Richard could keep access to me, to my money, to my family's influence. But they didn't just swap, they sold my son. Marcus tapped the table. I've got feelers out in the adoption black market networks. There's a pattern. Certain villages in the Appalachians and the Ozarks that take infants and toddlers, no questions asked point one of my contacts thinks he's found a match for your son's description. Male, age 7 to 8, sold through a broker named Eugene Crawley. Where? 2,000 miles from here, a village called Hollow Creek. It's not on any map. The locals don't like outsiders. I felt something crack open in my chest, a dam of hope I'd been trying to hold back. He was alive. He was somewhere. He was waiting. How fast can we get there? Marcus leaned back. You can charter a plane to the nearest airstrip by noon, but I'm telling you, Mrs. Marshall, this isn't a rescue mission. This is a hostage extraction. The people who bought your son, they didn't pay for a child. They paid for free labor. They'll fight to keep him. Then I'll bring an army. He smiled. It wasn't a friendly smile. I know a man, former Marine, runs a team of ex-military guys who specialize in these kinds of retrievals. But it's going to cost you. Name your price. 50,000. Up front. No guarantees. I pulled out my phone and transferred the funds in 30 seconds. Marcus's eyebrows went up. You're either very desperate or very wealthy. Both. He stood and shook my hand. I'll have the team ready by 9. Meet me at the private hangar at the county airport. And Mrs. Marshall, his grip tightened. When we go in, you stay behind me. These people aren't just criminals, they're a community. If one of them screams, they'll all come running with pitchforks and rifles. Understood. I made it back to the hospital just as Lily was waking up. Her eyes fluttered open, and the first thing she did was search for me. When she found me, she smiled, a sleepy, trusting smile that shattered my heart into 1,000 pieces. Mommy, she whispered, you came back. Always, baby. Always. I climbed onto the bed with her, and she curled into my side like a kitten. I stroked her hair, and she let me, no flinching, no pulling away. 8 years of distance, and it was already healing. I have to go away for a little while, I said softly. Just a few days, but you're going to stay with Grandma and Grandpa. They'll keep you safe. You know that, right? She nodded against my chest. Is Daddy coming too? My throat closed. No, sweetheart. Daddy has his own things to do. Is it because of the bad lady? The one who is crying? I couldn't lie to her anymore. I'd been lying to everyone, to myself, to my children, to the world. I told myself Richard was a good father, a good husband. I told myself Maddie was my responsibility, my blood. I told myself I wasn't drowning. I don't know what Daddy is doing, I said, but I know what I'm doing. I'm going to bring someone home, someone who belongs with us. Lily looked up at me, her small brow furrowed. Someone new, someone old, someone I lost a long time ago. She thought about this for a moment, then nodded. Okay, Mommy, but you have to come back. You have to come back to me. I promise. I held her until she fell asleep again. Then I called my mother. Get Lily to your house. Don't let anyone, not Richard, not Vivian, not any of their lawyers, anywhere near her. I'm going to find my son. My mother's voice was steel. I've already filed a restraining order against Richard. He won't get within 50 feet of her. And Eleanor. Yes. Bring him home. Whatever it costs, whatever it takes. He's been waiting long enough. At 7 in the morning, Richard showed up at the hospital. I was in the parking lot, loading a duffel bag into the car Marcus had sent, when I saw his silver SUV pull into the visitor's lot. He got out looking like he'd been dragged through hell, bloodshot eyes unshaven, clothes wrinkled and damp from the ocean. Eleanor. He ran toward me. Eleanor, wait. I slammed the trunk and turned to face him. My hand was already in my pocket, on the pepper spray I'd started carrying. Stay away from me, Richard. Please. Just give me 5 minutes. You have to understand. What happened? You sold my son. He froze. The color drained from his face, so fast I thought he might collapse. I don't know what you're talking about. Don't lie to me. My voice was calm. That surprised me. I'd expected rage, screaming, maybe violence, but all I felt was cold. Cold as the ocean. I know everything that I know about the swap. I know about Margaret Voss, and I know about the mountains, and I know that Vivian, your precious Vivian, is the one who made the deal. Richard's mouth opened and closed. For a second, I thought he might actually tell the truth. Eleanor, let me explain. Explain what? How you watched me grieve for 8 years. How you held my hand while I cried over a child who was still alive somewhere, starving and scared. How you let me pour all my love into a sick little girl who wasn't even mine. His voice cracked. I didn't know. Vivian told me the baby died. She told me she'd arranged everything so we could be together. I didn't know he was sold. I swear to you, Eleanor, I didn't know. Then why didn't you tell me the truth when Maddie was born? Why didn't you tell me she wasn't mine? He looked away. I was afraid. Afraid you'd leave me. You should have been afraid of what I'd do when I found out. I walked to the driver's side door, got in, and started the engine. Richard banged on the window. Eleanor, please, where are you going? You can't just leave. The police are asking questions about the kidnapping. I need you to... I rolled down the window an inch. The kidnapping, you mean the one Vivian staged? The one where she hired those men to make it look like a random attack, hoping I'd choose Maddie over Lily, so she could take her daughter back and destroy me in one move. Richard went pale again. How do you know? She's not as smart as she thinks she is, and neither are you. I rolled the window up and drove away. In the rearview mirror, I saw him standing in the parking lot, alone and helpless.
Good.
Let him suffer the way I'd suffered. Let him wonder if his children would ever look at him again. Let him feel the cold terror of losing everything. The private hangar was a squat metal building on the edge of the county airport. Marcus was waiting with 4 men, all ex-military, all heavily armed, all wearing the kind of practical gear that said they'd done this before. "This is the team," Marcus said. "We've got a 6-hour flight to the nearest strip. From there, it's a 2-hour drive through back roads to Hollow Creek. We go in at dusk. When the men are coming in from the fields, you'll identify your son, we'll secure him, and we'll exfil." He handed me a photograph. It was blurry, taken from a distance, but I could see the shape of a small boy standing next to a fence. Thin, dark-haired, barefoot. "He's been there 4 years, Marcus said. "The couple who bought him. Their name's Kessler. They're subsistence farmers. They've got 3 other children, all girls. Your son does the heavy work. He's been beaten, starved, and treated like livestock." I stared at the photograph. His face was too small to make out clearly, but I could see the set of his shoulders, the way he held himself, already bowed, already defeated. "Are we sure it's him? We'll do a DNA swab the moment we have him, but the broker's records match. The sale date matches. And the physical description matches. Birthmark on his left shoulder, shaped like a crescent moon. I had a birthmark like that. My father had it. It was genetic." "He's mine," I whispered. "We'll get him back." Marcus put a hand on my shoulder. "But I need you to prepare yourself. He might not remember you. He might not trust you. He's been living with strangers for almost half his life." I nodded. I'd thought about that. I'd prepared for it. But knowing and feeling were 2 different things. "We leave in 30 minutes. I sat in the hangar, watching the men load equipment into a small cargo plane. My phone buzzed. A text from my mother. "Lily is safe. She's asking for you. I told her you were on a business trip." I typed back. "Thank you. I'll call her when I land." Another buzz, this time from an unknown number. I opened it. "You're making a mistake." My blood ran cold. I knew who it was. "The boy is dead," the next text read. "The Kesslers buried him last week. You're too late." I stared at the screen. My hands started shaking. Then Marcus walked over. "We just got word from a local contact. The Kesslers' boy, a little one about your son's age, fell off a cliff yesterday. He's alive, but they're not treating him. They're letting him die in the barn." I read the text again. The anonymous sender knew about the fall, knew about the barn, knew everything. But they were wrong about the death. He was alive. He was alive, and I was coming. I pocketed the phone without replying. Whoever had sent that message, Vivian or one of her people, they were trying to stop me, to break me, to make me turn back. They didn't know how much I'd already broken, how much I'd already rebuilt. I boarded the plane. "Let's go," I said. The engines roared to life, and the hangar doors slid open. We taxied to the runway, and the plane lifted off with a lurch that pressed me back in my seat. Below me, the city shrank to a grid of lights. Somewhere in that grid was Lily, safe with her grandparents. Somewhere was Richard, panicking. Somewhere was Vivian, plotting. And somewhere, 2,000 miles away, my son was bleeding in a barn, waiting for someone to come. I didn't know if he'd recognize me. I didn't know if he'd still remember the sound of my voice. But I was coming. And nothing, not Vivian, not Richard, not the entire Kessler clan with their pitchforks and rifles, was going to stop me. Hashtag Chapter 3, the barn. The plane landed on a dirt strip that barely qualified as a runway. The pilot, a grizzled man who smelled like whiskey and chewing tobacco, squinted at the horizon and said, "You've got 4 hours of daylight left. Use sim wisely." Marcus helped me down the rickety steps. The air was different here, thinner, drier, carrying the scent of pine and dust and something else, something ancient and unforgiving. The mountains rose around us like gray-green walls, their peaks lost in low-hanging clouds. "This way," Marcus said, pointing to a rusted pickup truck waiting at the edge of the strip. "Our contact's name is Silas. He knows the area, he knows the people. He's the only reason we're getting anywhere near Hollow Creek without getting shot." Silas was a wiry man in his 60s with a face like dried leather and eyes that never quite met yours. He shook my hand without smiling. "Your boy's with the Kesslers. Been there since he was 3, maybe 4. He works their land, tends their animals, sleeps in the barn when he's lucky. They've got 3 girls of their own, all older, and they treat him like a mule." "How bad is it?" I asked. Silas spat into the dust. "He fell off a ridge yesterday, 30 feet, maybe more. Should have killed him, didn't. But the Kesslers don't believe in doctors. They've got him in the cowshed, waiting for God to decide if he lives or dies." I felt something twist in my chest, something between rage and grief and a fierce, protective love I hadn't known I still possessed. "Take me there, now." Silas looked at Marcus. "You know what happens if we get caught? These people don't call the law. They call their cousins, and their cousins' cousins. And before you know it, you're a cautionary tale they tell around the campfire." "We're prepared," Marcus said. "Drive." The truck bounced along roads that weren't really roads, just ruts worn into the red clay by generations of farming equipment. We passed small wooden houses, their porches piled with firewood and rusted tools. People watched us from their windows. Not curious, not welcoming, calculating. "Rednecks," Silas muttered, "but not the friendly kind. The kind that's been here so long they think the land belongs to them, and everyone else is a trespasser." "Where's the sheriff?" I asked. "About 60 miles away. He comes up here once a month to collect his bribes. Other than that, this county runs on its own rules, and the Kesslers are the ones who make them." We rounded a bend, and suddenly I could see it. A cluster of buildings at the base of a steep hill, a main house, 2 stories, paint peeling, roof patched with tarps, a barn, a chicken coop, and a smaller structure half collapsed that might have been a shed. "There," Silas said, pointing to the shed. "That's where they keep him." I was out of the truck before it stopped moving. Marcus grabbed my arm. "Easy. We go in together. My men will secure the perimeter. You go straight to the shed, get the boy, and get back to the truck. Don't look at anyone. Don't speak to anyone. Just move." I nodded. My heart was hammering so loud I could barely hear him. We moved through the brush along the side of the road, staying low. The sun was beginning to sink behind the mountains, painting the sky in shades of orange and purple. The Kessler house was quiet. No lights, no movement. But I could smell cooking smoke, hear the distant clang of a hammer. I see 2 men in the yard, one of Marcus's men whispered, holding rifles. Don't engage unless they engage first. We circled around the back of the barn, where the shadows were deepest. The ground was muddy, churned by hooves and feet. The smell of manure and hay was overwhelming. And then I saw the shed. It was small, maybe 10 by 10, with a rusted corrugated roof and a door that hung crooked on its hinges. The door was open just a crack, and through it, I could see movement, a small shape, huddled in the corner. Wait here, Marcus said. I'll clear it. He pushed the door open with the muzzle of his rifle. The shape didn't move, didn't react. It's him, Marcus said quietly. Eleanor, you need to see this. I stepped past him into the shed. The smell hit me first, blood and infection and animal waste, all mixed together into something that made my stomach lurch. The floor was packed dirt, wet with old straw and something darker. And in the corner, on a pile of mildewed blankets, was my son. He was small, oh small, I'd pictured a 7-year-old boy, chubby-cheeked, sturdy, maybe with a hint of the baby I'd held for those 20 minutes. But this child was skeletal. His arms were like twigs, his cheeks hollow, his collarbones jutting out like knife blades. His right leg was bent at an unnatural angle, the skin around it swollen and purple. His eyes were closed, but his chest was moving, just barely. Baby, I breathed. Oh, baby. He didn't respond. His face was smudged with dirt and dried blood, his hair matted with something that might have been sweat or might have been pus. One of his hands lay limp at his side, the fingers curled like a dead spider. I fell to my knees beside him, up close. I could see the details, the crescent moon birthmark on his left shoulder, just like mine, the same shape my father had, the same shape my grandfather had. It was him that IT was really him. Hey, I whispered. Hey, sweetheart. I'm here. I'm your mom. I'm here to take you home. His eyes fluttered open. They were brown, my brown, the same shade I saw in the mirror every morning. They were glassy with fever, unfocused, but they found my face. Mommy, the word was so faint I almost missed it. Yes, baby. Yes, I'm here. I've got you. He tried to move, to reach for me, but his body wouldn't cooperate. He made a small sound, a whimper of pain and confusion, and then his eyes closed again. Don't sleep, I said, panic rising. Stay with me, okay? Stay with me. Marcus knelt beside me, checking the boy's pulse. He's got a fever, 103 at least. The leg is broken, see the swelling? He needs a hospital, and he needs it now. Then let's go. But as I reached to lift him, the door of the shed burst open. What in God's name? A man stood in the doorway. He was huge, 6'5" at least, with a barrel chest and arms like hands. His face was red with fury, and he was holding a shotgun aimed directly at Marcus's chest. You get away from him, the man snarled. That's my boy. You get away from him now. Marcus didn't move. Mr. Kessler, I'm Special Agent Webb, FBI. I have a warrant for the seizure of this child. You're obstructing a federal investigation. Kessler laughed. IT was an ugly sound, like rocks grinding together. FBI? You think I give a damn about FBI? This is my land, and that's my boy. You take him, you'll be dead before you reach the gate. Behind him, I could see the other men emerging from the house. 3 of them, all armed, all moving toward us with a slow, deliberate pace of hunters who knew their prey couldn't escape. Marcus, I whispered. I see them. Kessler stepped into the shed, blocking the only exit. You made a mistake coming here, lady. That boy is ours. He's been ours for 4 years. You think you can just walk in and take him back? I stood up. I don't know where the strength came from. I hadn't slept, hadn't eaten, hadn't done anything but cry and plan for the past 3 days. But something in me just snapped. His name is Benjamin, I said. Benjamin Marshall. He was born on September 12th at 2:47 in the morning. He weighed 7 pounds, 2 ounces. He had a crescent moon birthmark on his left shoulder. He was taken from me before I ever got to hold him, and you... My voice broke. You bought him like he was a piece of property. You starved him, you beat him, and now you're letting him die in a cow shed. Kessler's face twisted. You don't know nothing about what we've done for him. We fed him when he was hungry. We gave him a roof over his head. You made him work, I said. You used him like a mule. You made him feel like he was worthless. And you're still going to let him die. You're not even going to take him to a doctor. Kessler looked at the boy, and for just a moment, I saw something flicker in his eyes. Shame, guilt, regret. Then it was gone, and he raised the shotgun. Get out of my shed. Now. Marcus's voice was calm. Mr. Kessler, I have 12 men with sniper rifles positioned around your property. If you fire that weapon, you'll be dead before the shot leaves the barrel. I'm going to give you 3 seconds to put it down. Kiss that left second. You're bluffing. 1. You ain't got 12 men. You don't got 12 anything. 2. Kessler looked at me, looked at the boy, looked back at Marcus. I could kill you all, he said. I could kill you all and dump your bodies in the ravine, and no one would ever know. 3. Kessler's finger tightened on the trigger. And then the night exploded with noise. Gunfire, screaming, the sound of splintering wood. I threw myself over my son's body, covering him with my own, expecting the hot punch of a bullet in my back at any second. But the bullet never came. When I looked up, Kessler was on his knees, his shotgun lying on the ground beside him. He was clutching his shoulder, blood seeping between his fingers. One of Marcus's men was already in the shed, his rifle trained on Kessler's head. The perimeter is secured, the man said. We've got all 3 men restrained. Women and children are in the main house unharmed. Marcus grabbed my arm. We need to go. Now. The gunfire will bring the whole valley down on us. I lifted my son into my arms. He weighed nothing, barely more than a sack of flour. His head lolled against my shoulder, and his breath was shallow, uneven. "You're going to be okay," I whispered. "You're going to be okay, baby. I've got you." We ran through the darkness to the truck. Silas was already in the driver's seat, engine running, headlights off. Marcus and his men piled into the truck bed, rifles ready. "Go," Marcus shouted. Silas floored it. We bounced along the rutted road, the truck jouncing and rattling over rocks and roots. I held my son as still as I could, trying to cushion him from the worst of the jolts. He was so hot, his skin burning against my hands. "Stay with me," I said. "Stay with me, Benjamin. We're almost there. We're almost home." His eyes fluttered open again, and this time they were clearer. He looked at me, really looked at me, and his lips moved. "You came for me?" "Of course I came for you. You're my son. I'll always come for you." He closed his eyes, and a single tear slid down his dirty cheek. "Mommy," he whispered, and then he was asleep. The flight back was the longest 6 hours of my life. The pilot had a medical kit, and Marcus had basic field training. They'd splinted Benjamin's leg, cleaned his wounds, and started in 4 drip of fluids. But his fever wasn't breaking, and his breathing was still too shallow. I held him in my lap the whole time, stroking his hair, whispering reassurances he couldn't hear. Every few minutes, I'd check his pulse, terrified I'd find nothing. "I can't lose him," I said to Marcus. "I can't. Not after everything." Marcus leaned forward. "He's tougher than he looks. He survived 4 years with the Kesslers. He survived that fall. He's going to survive this." I wanted to believe him. I needed to believe him. When we finally landed at the hospital in the city, the medical team was waiting. They took Benjamin from my arms, his eyes still closed, his face still pale, and rushed him into surgery. And then I was alone. I sat in the waiting room, staring at the white walls, replaying everything in my head, the floating words, the kidnappers, the choice, the swim to save Lily, the flight to the mountains, the shed, the gunfire. I'd done all of that in less than 4 days. It felt like a lifetime. My phone buzzed, a message from an unknown number. "How did you find him?" I didn't answer. Another buzz. "I thought you were weaker than this." I stared at the screen. Vivian. Of course it was Vivian. She was trying to get inside my head, to make me question myself. But I didn't. I'd found my son, I'd saved him, and I was going to make sure she never got near any of my children again. I typed back, "Stay away from my family." The reply came instantly. "You have no idea who you're dealing with." I laughed out loud in the empty waiting room. "Neither do you," I said to the empty air. 6 hours later, Benjamin came out of surgery.